Everybody, welcome in on this Friday to the Maize and Blue Reviews. Good afternoon, Michigan football. I'm Dennis Fithian. Oh, it's a cold one out there today. We talked a lot about the weather yesterday. People are talking about snow in Buffalo and snow over on the western side of the state, the western side of the state, and you had the football game in western and central Michigan with snow. I was out there walking in it this morning. And, I looked and it said, feels like 19 with the wind chill. Yeah. It takes, I don't know about you, but it takes me, I don't know, a week or two of the, like this. I would say this is cold weather. It's below 30 degrees, certainly below 25. It takes me a little time. Like I can handle it. Like in a month or two, if we're in February, it's 19 degrees, I can handle it. The first couple times it feels a lot colder, but I dealt with it, and here I am, and it's great to be here. We are here live weekdays at 1 o'clock. If you did not know that, talking about the latest in Michigan sports, and we got a few things to talk about. You might be able to guess what we're going to talk about. I'll give you a couple seconds to think about it. While I tell you that if you want to know, there's recruiting news today. If you wanted to know about that earlier than everyone else, you want to know everything that's going on behind the scenes with Michigan football, basketball, and all the other sports, so why not join the Maize and Blue Review? Michigan.rivals.com. Go there and use the promo code MBR1YEAR. That is MBR1YEAR. You get 50% off for the entire year. You get full access now. So go ahead, take care of that, and, give yourself the present of the Maize and Blue Review. All right, time to guess and everything is over. Here it is. Michigan played a late night game last night at the Barclays Center in Brooklyn, taking on Arizona State. They got boat raced in the Legends Classics final. We'll give you a little recap on that. I've got the prediction for you coming up for tomorrow's Michigan-Illinois game, and that's where we're going to start, is with Michigan and Illinois. Now, if you're out there and you want to join us, go ahead and leave a message like Mark saying, it's good to see me. Hey, Mark, it's good to see you. And your picture up there, first one in. I like to see that. If you have a question about Michigan, you got a question about anything, you got a question, I'll answer your question. You get a point. Go ahead, type it away. We'll get it in there. It's an interactive show. We'd like to do that. It's fun to hear where the people are at. Coming up less than 24 hours to Michigan's home finale of the football season. And yeah, that perks me up a little bit when I say it like that. And I was thinking about it today. It was earlier in the week, or it might even have been last week, when I was talking about Michigan basketball, and somebody said, hey, I'm not watching Michigan basketball right now. I'm still in football mode. And I thought, okay, fair enough, because most people are like that. They wait to the end of the college football season. Some people wait to the end of the Super Bowl, and then they're like, oh, hey, basketball, let me start watching. I get that. But I'm like, as soon as basketball's starting, I'm watching, because I feel like, I can have two interests, or even I like watching the NFL, college football, and the NFL. There's three things. It's like, wow, I like pro basketball. I like hockey. I really like the four major sports: football, basketball, hockey, and baseball, college and pro. That's a lot, because people are like, well, you watching the World Cup? I'm like, I know people really like soccer and everything like that, but, it's not really my cup of tea, soccer. I watch golf and the golf majors, and I like a little tennis, so it's not just the four majors, but that's a lot. Like over the last few years, open wheel racing, especially, the F1 overseas has really taken off. It's like kind of a, popular thing with a lot of younger males, I think. And, it's like people would ask me, hey, are you into that? I'm like, I don't know. Like, when am I watching that? Am I getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning? I don't know. So I say that because I'm sitting here this morning, and now in the afternoon, I feel like I've got a laser focus, or the anticipation of tomorrow's game, even though it didn't seem like that all week long because there was a lot of like, oh, Ohio State, college football playoff, and everything else. And then I've seen people, they kind of just, I think they're into their regular routine with college football. It's getting later in the year, and Michigan fans are talking about recruiting. They're talking about the staff, who's leaving, who's going pro, college football playoff, all these different things, which are kind of like it is about Michigan, but it's not about what is happening tomorrow. And I get it because you can do more than one thing at once. But for me here, it's like I just want to today, think about the position that Michigan is in, because all of that other stuff that we always talk about and all summer long. I mean, I was here every day, every weekday, talking about Michigan and the upcoming season and the schedule and, what's the defense looking like, who is most important, everything, that I could possibly think of, throwing it, Michigan football, the upcoming season and everything else, predictions, all of it. For this is what it was all set up for. And I think people, forget, like, this is it. I'm just, so all of that, I'm in the frame of mind where I'm sitting back and, however you say it, smelling the roses, enjoying the moment, looking forward to tomorrow, and get ready to get it on with this game, because this is everything. This is a special season. And who knows? I mean, it could be the most special season ever. I mean, it really, you just think about that. And now you might think of that all the time, but certainly as you've gone out here, you get to double-digit wins. Like, it's really, I mean, there's really an opportunity here. Of course, the winning of a week from tomorrow, that's how close we are. So that Ohio State game feels like it means everything, for, the grand prize. But there's a lot of prizes, to be had. But the grand prize, boy, if Michigan, and I looked today and I was just looking through, I'm going to be picking some games later on Sharpening the Edge right here on the Maize and Blue Review, right on this channel. And as I was paging down, look at the menu, I'm like, do I like that game? Do I like that game? All of a sudden I get into next week's game, and there it was, Michigan, Ohio State. Michigan plus 7.5. Before we get into this action tomorrow, the line could move a little bit, but that's around, I would think, where it was going to be. Although, it was 10 double figures before the season. It's been down. We'll see. Maybe Michigan plays great tomorrow. Ohio State doesn't play so well, and it goes down to 6 or 5, and then maybe all the the gamblers are like, I like Michigan, and then they get it down to 3 or whatever. But 7.5. I thought that was interesting to tell you about. Let's see where the people are at. Fridays are for the people. It's for the fans. Like, that's where I am at. They say they say experts like psychology, people in the mindset and everything. They talk about. I have a meditation app that I listen to. I wish I listened to it every day. I like doing it, but I don't always do it every day. But the lady that I listen to, she's always talking about be present. It's all about what's going on right now. And I think about J.J. McCarthy sitting under those goalposts, and he's just sitting there. He's just following his breath. And as I was doing that yesterday, I was thinking, you know what? I'm all right, man. I'm right here in this moment. And what's going on? Okay. Mark with a prediction on tomorrow's game. He likes Michigan 34-13. JJ runs for a touchdown and throws for one. Corum runs for 2. Moody 2 field goals. Not bad. I'll take 34-13 right now. I would like Corum. I like the 2 touchdowns. I'd like him to run for 200 yards, but I don't know. That's a lot. So that's what I would like. I'd take 150. I'll take over 100 yards. But, if that's being a little greedy on this Friday, I'm feeling a little greedy for just talking about what we want to see. I'd like to see Corum run for 2 and 200. The captain. Wind speed's going to make it tough to throw tomorrow. Michigan doesn't throw the ball deep. They don't have to worry about that. They just run the ball anytime. And that's what Illinois likes to do. So luckily for both of the coaches, it's not like they got to sit around and say, "Hey, we got to really change the game plan. We're not going to be able to throw the ball deep down the field with that wind." They're like, they don't throw it anyways, or they don't have success throwing it. So just run the ball. No factor, Captain. Well, I do wish that tomorrow's weather was going to be the Columbus weather from next week. And I'm seeing the long range forecast, snow and everything. But as I was out there and with the snow coming down today and the wind in my face, I thought, if the weather's like this in Columbus, Michigan's going to win the football game. I've had that thought. Good afternoon, Jason. Here's a question from MRE. How does Michigan's personnel match up to OSU wide receiver? For your information, Turner on Harrison, etc. And I think our biggest weakness is linebacker, pass protection. Thoughts? Well, the first thing that I think about is that if these two things work hand in hand. A pass rush and pressure on the quarterback works with being able to cover in the secondary. One without the other, you're in trouble. Michigan is able to get pressure on the quarterback. And if you look at CJ Stroud's numbers this year, I mean, he's the leading candidate as we sit here right now, whether you like it or not, for the Heisman Trophy, but he's really piss poor throwing the ball when he's under pressure, and all quarterbacks are. But if you look at a ranking, and I put it up a week or so ago, just where Stroud is, he's like in the very bottom of all college football in accuracy when you're able to put pressure on him. So that's the number one key next week against Ohio State. And Michigan, you're talking about Harrison. I don't know, Jackson Smith Najigba, him not being in there is a huge factor. I mean, the guy's one of the greatest wide receivers, and then they're still really stacked with what they have. I mean, they have not only, Harrison Jr., but you go down the list, they've got at least 3 guys, maybe 4 that you're talking about are really high end, probably future pros. I mean, they got great wide receivers, the best wide receivers in the country, even without Jackson Smith Najigba. But luckily Michigan has 4 guys that you can say that can play the position. You mentioned Turner. There's Jymon Green. There's Agent Zero, Mike Sanders still. And, that's the 3. And then the thrill, Will Johnson. I wouldn't be surprised. Charles Woodson had 2 picks against Ohio State when he was a freshman. I wouldn't put it past Will Johnson to come up with a pick. So I think the matchup, that is one of Michigan's strength, pass rush, and also I sounded like Chris Collinsworth a little bit there because he always calls it pass rush. The pass rush for Michigan and their corners, I know, I would love to see all of the Michigan corners use even sounder technique. And I know Steve Klinkscale works on it, being able to locate the ball and, turn when it's in the air and play the man and everything else. But, and some of those jump balls and the hand fighting, that's all going to be a key. But, there's the key to the game right there, Mark. How Michigan's going to be able to run the ball, and then how Michigan's going to be able to defend the pass. There it is. We can break it all down right now. And as far as being able to defend the pass, being able to get a pass rush up front. I mean, those are the 3. Those are the top 3 keys in the game. Then you start putting in the stuff that everybody talks about, turnovers and the kicking game. There's 5 things right there. We don't need to go very much further. Although I'll start talking to former Wolverines this week. And, a lot of those guys, when they talk about this game, they say that it's some of the most basic things. Blocking, tackling. And I don't want to talk about anything else. That's what this game comes down to. Blocking and tackling. Okay. And another one, I'm thinking of some of the guys that I talk with and what they say. You know what they say where this game's going to be won? In the trenches. Not going to be, the quarterback, Stroud or the receivers or the DB. It's going to be won up front. Hey, where was the game won last year? Up front on both sides of the ball. That's where it's going to be won this year. So all of those things, there's about 5, 6, now 7 keys that I would think about when it comes down to the game a week from tomorrow. Andres talking about the display last night. I never want to watch basketball again. I'll get to that coming up. Andres, good tease. Here's old blank. Old blank is saying that the fact that Urban Meyer would rather have Michigan style of play than OSU's. He loved breaking his opponent in the second half with a power running game. Well, I don't know. I guess you've listened to Urban Meyer recently, or you're listening to him on the pregame. So I didn't hear that specifically, him saying exactly that. But would I rather have, like, college football right now? It's spread, it's passing, it's the same thing in pros. It's a quarterback league. It's quick strike. It's vertical passing game. It's throwing the football all over the place, using the entire field, scoring a lot of points. That's the name of the game in college and in pro right now. That is not the name of the game for Michigan. Michigan is completely zigged from that. It's line up, run the football. Repeat, 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 repeat. Freshen your defense. Get the ball back. Kicking game. Run, run, run. So that's hard to prepare for when you're a team that's playing spreads and everybody thinking about the clock, and then you get a team that's lunch pail and wants to come at you and repeatedly attack on the ground, tenderize you, get you into the second half, like you're talking about, Blake. I think about it a lot in sports, like whichever way you can, whatever sport that we're talking about. It's like, hey, this is how the top teams play. This is how you win championships. Look at the coach, look at the GM, look at the style of play. Oh, yeah, look at this team. They're doing everything really different. And you kick an eye like, wait a second, what are they doing here? And sometimes you say, these guys are crazy. And then other times you say, hey, they're crazy, but they're crazy like a fox because they know what they're doing about how to win football games. And, Harbaugh, where he's sitting right now, he's in a great spot. He's a really good coach. And what he was able to do last year and now bring it into this year, if he's able to, get this to Indianapolis, I don't know. Like, to me, he's I'll just canonize him then. I'm ready to, declare statehood for Jim Harbaugh if he gets Michigan to Indy this year. With everything that was going on, it looks so insurmountable. It looks so difficult, such a tough nut to crack that I didn't see it. And during the pandemic, and I didn't even had enough. I saw it in Harbaugh's eyes. I'm like, he's beaten down. He knows he can't do it. He wants out. It can't be done. And if Harbaugh can't do it, nobody can. But damn it, and now look at it. Look at it now. And what he's been able to do. I hear you, Blank. What's up, Malachi? Here's old Dune E. Don. I think I got that right. He says, I think Michigan and Illinois engage in a rock fight tomorrow afternoon. I kind of expect an ugly one. I'm going to say Michigan 24, Illinois 13. Well, Dune E. Don, you and I are brothers. We see the game the exact same way. Both teams playing the game the exact way that the other team wants to play. And the fact that it's going to be windy and cold only makes them buckle down and want to do it even more. Maybe Michigan doesn't throw the ball at all. All right, let's not overreact. Mark likes F1 racing with some parallels behind the scenes, prep work, planning, coaching, all the stuff that happens before the game. Yeah, I get that, Mark. When I first worked in radio in Ann Arbor, they played NASCAR on the radio. One of my first, jobs was sitting at a board on a radio board during Sundays when they have the NASCAR, and I'd sit there, play commercials during the Winston Cup races, it was called back then. But then one or two times a year when they would go down to the track, and we had to cover it. And then the couple times when there was open wheel racing, I went down there. And, so as a novelty, I didn't really knew too much about it. I actually knew more about open wheel racing because of the Indy 500 growing up than the NASCAR. But, when you're in the media, you get these, you walk under the track, you go up to the press box, you go on top of the press box where you're able to see not only down, you can see the whole shooting match all the way around. You go down the pit road, you go inside the garage. You get over there, you see a guy turning a little fender. How did they run? How did they practice? How did they qualify? All of that kind of stuff. Yeah, that kind of stuff, it's a little bit interesting, I'll give you that. If there was nothing else in the world, going on, but my problem is there's too much other stuff. And I don't have the schedule, so maybe I could fit it in. But I don't know. Am I gonna? But yeah, I get the attraction. And in fact, one time down there, I forget what Brooklyn. That's what it is. Brooklyn, Michigan, where they have the track, the big oval there. There was it was the kart series, I think it was called. There was a driver named Alex Zanardi, an Italian fellow, and he was the best in the kart series, and he was a great driver. And they had a media day the day before. There's a go-kart track across the street from Brooklyn, and they had the media session there. And you were able to win prizes for the media and everything, and you're interviewing the drivers, and the drivers are great. They're so accessible. They're the nicest guys in the world. It's like, hey, can I interview you? Sure, come on. They sit you down, and there's guys, Elio Castroneves. It might have been a little bit before his time, but I got Emerson Fittipaldi, like all these guys that you recognize their name and everything. And I was over there talking to them a little bit, but the thing that I will never forget about it. Oh, there's another story. There's a guy named Paul. I think his name was Paul Tracy. So he was known as like this rogue, completely hothead, open wheel racer, like would get into fights, and he just was a menace. Well, he's there. And so they get out there and they're like, hey, okay, the media, they're going to run around the track and we're going to have the prizes and everything else. So it's pretty cool. So I get ready to get in my cart, and I see the kid from the garage. He's calling me over, and he says, don't use that cart. Use this one right here. It's the best one. And I was like, oh, okay. So I, I grabbed the cart, and then Alex Zanardi, the drivers would drive with you in the little go-karts. And I go to Alex. I'm like, did you have any tip for me? And he says, stay behind me the whole time and you'll win. That's what his advice was. And I'm like, all right. So I get in behind Alex and Artie the whole time, and I'm just following and going all around. With like 2 laps to go, this Tracy guy, who's the rogue jerk of open wheel racing and everything, he reaches out and crashes me on purpose. So they go to the caution flag. But the car that I had underneath me, I should have, I don't remember if I thanked the kid in the garage or not. I had the best vehicle. So I was able to speed back up there under caution, get all the way up front, and Zanardi took me to the checkered flag, and I won it without knowing anything at all about open. I didn't know about follow Zanardi, and hey, kid gave me the best machine out there. The best part of that was that particular story, but then we got up, and they actually put us up on the winners circle. The first place was higher, and the second, third. And the third place guy gets this like leather jacket, and I was like, wow, that's a sweet coat. And then the second place guy gets this like sweet camcorder. I'm like, wow. these guys, what am I going to get? I want it all. They gave me this watch, not this particular watch, but they gave me this watch. And I loved it. I can remember seeing it in magazines after that. You had seen it every guys, and they're like, hey, there's my watch. Unfortunately, I let a girl wear that watch. She was my girlfriend at the time. She was clumsy and she didn't take care of things. I knew that. So I should have never let her wear it, but I did. I regret it. And she broke it. I still have it, but I've never been able to fix it after that. That's my long story. He's talking about kart racing. Unfortunately, so Zanardi ended up winning the race the next day. He's my favorite. I love Alex Zanardi. A year later, he gets T-boned in a race over in Europe and loses both of his legs. Zanardi did. It's terrible. Lucky to be alive. You know, they had to fly him off in a chopper. But guess what? Zanardi kept racing. Not in the kart series, but then they had for, people that couldn't race and, maybe had some issues there. He kept racing. And it wouldn't surprise me. Probably 60. I don't know if you're racing if you're 60, 70 years old. But that's it. Start bringing up that. In trouble. Let's go to Shane. Shane says he loves the show, loves Scars, wins the game with a healthy Keegan, Donovan, and Scooney, and the same offensive schemes we haven't seen yet. Let's go over this a little bit more. Shane, love the show, love Scars, Michigan, wins the game. Okay, all right, let me get this. Michigan wins the game with a healthy Keegan. That is Michigan offensive lineman Trevor Keegan. Donovan Edwards, Scooney, who is the tight end Luke Schoonmaker, and some offensive schemes we haven't seen yet. Let's go blue. Yeah. Yeah, I would like to see all the guys out there. That would, it'd make you feel really good if all of the players were that have been out and that are questionable, if they all played, Shane. I mean, that would be the great news. And as far as what you're talking about with the game plan, you're talking about Scar each week when he's, breaking down that tape and looking at the offensive linemen and what they're running. He calls it power, and he says, hey, look at this. Now they're running away from power. Yeah, they'll put some. They're going to definitely. The coaches love to put that stuff on film before the Ohio State game. They can't wait. I feel like half the plays that they run, they're putting them on there just to like smoke screen Ohio State. Like, let's run this because Ohio State will be expecting this, and then we'll run it off of that. Yeah, there's a cat and mouse game going on there. But yeah, Shane, what you're saying, I like where you were at. Or I like where you are at. Woodson had 2 picks against OSU as a freshman, so who knows? That's right. Maybe one of their wide receivers will shoot their mouth off saying, I don't know why these guys are coming on down here. And then after the game, Will Johnson will say, I don't really know why Marvin Harrison Jr. was talking like he did. Antoine, the coach, getting in here. Eichenberg, the linebacker for Ohio State, got a hand wrapped. I'll be running the ball at him. Tried to tackle with a wrapped hand. A little injury intel. The coach is not just showing up at 1 o'clock. The coach is going down and he's watching tape and listening to audio from all of the Ohio State podcasters and broadcasters, and he's taking notes. And he is sending them down to Schembechler Hall for the Michigan coaching staff to use for the game. Good stuff. The coach, the analyst, Antoine. That's right. Malachi say, yeah, throw at him right now. There's Malachi saying Juwan embarrassed himself last night. That was inexcusable. Let's get to what you have to say, or what you're saying there about Michigan basketball. You had the game last night, Malachi, and Michigan got boat raced. If you don't know what a boat race is, it's, they get in those rowboats, and the boat that gets out ahead and stays out ahead the whole time and takes it from the start to the finish is a boat length in front. That's called getting boat raced. And Arizona State boat raced Michigan. They had the lead, never looked back. 18 points at the break. it was bad from start to finish. There was nothing to take away from that game. You want to just move on and get to Sunday night when Michigan brings in Ohio. Now, in basketball, they're not bringing in Ohio State. They're bringing in actually the real Ohio. It can be confusing because after tomorrow and even today, people will be calling Ohio State Ohio, and then the basketball team's playing Ohio. But so it can get a little confusing, and it's going to happen. But you're right. And if you missed all what happened at the game, I talked about it a lot more. Michigan basketball post-game live last night. But here's essentially what happened. Michigan was losing by 27, and the shot clock was off, and Arizona State dribbled into the front court. And they were just standing there, and they're going to dribble the ball out. Game's over. Let's, burn the tape, go home. But that's not what happened. As the guy was in the front court dribbling the ball out, Doug McDaniel snuck in behind him, swiped the ball, took it the other end, and scored a layup. Now, look, you're not supposed to do that. And then to make matters worse, with the clock then under 10 seconds and draining down to like 5 seconds, Michigan hard doubles the inbounds pass. And then, I don't know if they got the steal or whatever, but there's a reason that you don't do that. Now, look, for Michigan and Juwan Howard, this is a repeated pattern. So if this happened and there was nothing else that ever happened in the post game, a handshake line, you would just say, these guys are freshmen. Don't do that. There's a reason. So you take each situation on its own and you say, don't do that, because there's a reason teams don't do that, because things can escalate. That's like with Penn State when they were down in the tunnel, and they were chirping and you see all that, but there was the report of them throwing things. You don't throw things at the other opponent. In basketball, when the game's over and the ball's in the front court, you don't steal the ball. You don't hard double then even after that, because you know why? You can tick off the other team and you can end up getting a fight at the end. You don't want to do that. You can make the coaches mad, and we saw what happened at Wisconsin last year. So this is going to be used by opponents for sure. It is a repeated pattern for Michigan under Juwan Howard, whether you like that or not. And I know you don't like it if you're a Michigan fan. And opposing teams and rivals and people that don't like Michigan, they will harp on this, and they will be on this all the time. And if you were tired last year of the suspension at the end of the year and you don't want to hear about it anymore, and Juwan Howard, let's move on, and everything else, well, this opens that back up. This is a little bit more fuel for rivals, and they've got a point. That's the thing about it. They got a point. You're a Michigan fan, you're just like, I don't want to hear about it anymore. Let's move on. I get that. But, let's not have any, do I have to say this? Let's not have any more etiquette situation at the end of the game in the handshake line. And this was in the handshake line. Here comes Bobby Hurley. Here comes Juwan Howard. Oh, way back in the day, Duke, Michigan, Fab Five, Bobby Hurley. And as they're shaking hands, you got to have Juwan Howard turning around with his look like, what's going on? It was bad. It was bad, but, that's it. And why am I talking about it? Well, it was part of what happened. It's a repeated pattern. I take each situation as it is. Doesn't mean I'm talking about it all the time. I'm talking about it right now. It happened. And yeah, you move on. Is it a one-day story? It's a story that your rivals are going to continue to use against you because they can, and they have a point. But let's not have anything like this happen again. Let's talk to the players about Michigan has to, it's sports. Things like this can happen. But with Michigan, and specifically with Michigan basketball, like Juwan Howard, he can't have anything like that happen anymore. He can't have any pushing and shoving in any handshake line. He can't have any shenanigans at the end of the game. And you know what this was? It was shenanigans. He's not supposed to have any of this stuff anymore. Well, they're freshmen. I agree with that. You know this in high school. not to do this. So it was a bad look. It, it's not the worst thing in the world, but it's another one of these things. It's adds up. It's on the list of things. And look, so you just deal with it. I don't have to admonish like Michigan media. They're like, you're making a little bit too much of it. No, I'm not. You're not making enough of it if that's what you're saying to me. I see a situation, I call it, I look at it, I analyze it, and I talk about it. If you're somebody that's like, let's talk about this in February, you know what? That's fine. That's your opinion. You want to fight? I don't know where that came from. No, I don't. I just want to move on and talk about the games. Apparently, other people want to fight. So that's it when it comes down to that. Let's get some more feedback up as we talk about. We'll go back to football and Michigan, Illinois coming up tomorrow. Should Michigan practice a silent count this week? Yes, absolutely. Jeffrey, can't just move on. Huge fan of Juwan, but if he can't behave, he may need to move on. Well, I mean, it is a repeated pattern. This one incident isn't something that, even with everything that's has happened, that there needs to be any suspension or Juwan needs to go. Or like, no. But it's just the repeated pattern, and you say, hey, we don't want any more shenanigans. And then here we are, 4 games into the year, shenanigans. I seen at the end, the ASU player came up chirping, and we chirped back. Nothing too bad. Yeah. Well, I don't know. The broadcasters called it a what did they call it? I think I read. Maybe I do have it here. Let's see. Oh, I do. Just from the game last night. Let's see what. It's the last 10 seconds of the game. Tussle. That's what he called it. Here it is. Tussle.
Juwan right now is telling his guys settle down. That's going to be the whistle. It is a thorough beatdown for Arizona State. 87-62 the final score. The Sun Devils take the Legends Classic Championship. There's a little bit of a tussle after the whistle.
Little bit of a tussle after the whistle. The thing here, and there's nothing against you, Malachi, saying, look, this is what happens, or boys will be boys here. Michigan, this is on Michigan. Like Arizona State saying whatever they want, Frankie Collins sticking out his tongue, whatever. See ya, get your ass off the court, take yourself to the losers bracket, whatever. That's basketball. That's sports. Guys are going to say stuff. Would you like everybody to shake hands and move on? Yeah. Sometimes people are going to tell you to go jump in the lake. That's part of it. But what isn't part of it is when, you're swiping the ball when the game's over. And then you're throwing a hard double down 25. That's how things escalate. And that's how a tussle happens. There's no excuse for it. It shouldn't happen. And it's happened a number of times now with Michigan. It's something they are known for. If I was working the game as a member of the media, I would now think that I would have to watch and I guess what? Every single handshake. I know they have them all up, but those producers are like, make sure you get Juwan. Let's not cut out of this game until the handshake is done and the players are in the locker room, because Michigan is they've had this repeated pattern. Whether you like that or not, they are known for it now, and it happened again. And last night was 100% on Michigan. There was no they were talking. And I don't know. I didn't see the camera right at the end. It looked like the coaches got in there. But the broadcasters called it a little tussle. So it sounds like a little bit more than just, running your mouth. Tussle sounds like you're ready to get into somebody's face. It sounds like a tussle is pretty close to being of some kind of fight. And you're lucky it wasn't that. Not you, Malachi. You're not lucky. Michigan is lucky. All right. Andres, that was downright garbage. All those mouth breathers are going to be screaming their heads off all game long in the shoe. Oh, yeah. There's one thing, man. No, I just said, Malachi, I disagree. I don't know if you just wrote that. It was Michigan's fault. Like I said, no suspension or anything, but it was close to being a situation. And Michigan doesn't have any situations like that. They don't want situations. And it was close to being a situation. Greg Glenn was in the mix, and we know what kind of cat. I don't know what kind of cat Greg Glenn is. I know that he's played 4 games at Michigan. And if you're saying he's the kind of cat that is prone to trying to mix it up a little something at the end of the game, then he needs not to be that kind of cat. Michigan can't have those kind of cats. Michigan is under a microscope when it comes down. Look at the snow coming down. Wow. Michigan cannot be that kind of team. Yeah, the dog in them, having a dog in you is fine when you're competing and you're playing, but you have to be able to turn on and turn off being a dog. And when you turn it off is when the game is over. And it is essentially over when the shot clock is off and the other team is beating you by almost 30 points and the other team is just dribbling out the ball in the front court. If you're that kind of dog, you need to be smacked on the mouth. Here's my dog looking at me. No, I'm not smacking you on the mouth, Louie. I don't smack my dog anyways. But if he bit the pizza man, which he did a couple of years ago, no, you need to. You can't have him biting the pizza man. You can't be that kind of dog. If you want to be a dog, that's fine. Turn on and off being the dog. Look at football players. I'd take Greg Glenn and say, go hang out with the football players. Because you know what, football, these guys are gladiators. You got to be so tough. I don't even know. I'm trying to tell you, I played 2 years of high school football. So there's my level of toughness and actually putting on the helmet, got injured and everything else. These guys are warriors on the football field. And they go out there and it is an all-out battle. And these guys got to be so hyped up. They're super athletes. And you know what we demand of them? They go out there and they play. And when the whistle blows, they got to wait to the next whistle. They got to wait to the play clock. They got to go huddle up. And that's a big part of the game of football. Play to the whistle. Be an all-out, smart, aggressive, use your word, dog. People love talking about it. Have the meanest, nastiest pit bull dog mentality. When the whistle blows, you got to wait till the next play. And when the game's over, you can't be a dog. You can't take that, off the field into the tunnel. You have to turn it off and turn it on, Malachi, so we can't have all of that. Well, Andres is right on it. Here you go. Playing to the whistle. Exactly. Scuffle, tussle, hustle. Here we go. The coach has something to say about it. The media is the biggest instigators of propaganda and trouble and lies, deception there is. I don't like or trust them. They start wars against countries and great instigators over the years. Yeah, hey, look, you might be right about all that, Antoine. Man, I'm just talking about. I'm talking about stealing the ball. There's, 20 seconds, in this case, 12 seconds to go. So, and that's all. And I'm not kidding. I'm not making it too serious or anything. And sometimes I start yelling and people think I am. And actually earlier this week, I don't know what I was doing. I was talking about this and yelling at that. To be fair, it was on our side of the court. Yeah. It was in the back court. and there was 5 seconds to go in the game, and they had a hard double. That's where a lot of Michigan fans lost it. I like the thing against Wisconsin. I found that I was, there was Michigan and there was Wisconsin, and then there was all Michigan State fans and everybody else, and I found myself looking at like the rest of the Michigan media, and like Michigan was pressing, or they were certainly in the front court against Wisconsin. If you call the dogs off, you are in the back court. Hence, you're waving the white flag. Michigan was in the front court. So Guard, whose team was the number 1 team in the nation in turnover margin, and he had his backups in. You know what Guard didn't want to happen there? He didn't want to turn the ball over, because that looks really good in recruiting. It looks really good on these notes that they put out, and it says right up above, Wisconsin getting ready to take on Michigan State. The first line, the Badgers are the number 1 team in the country in turnover margin. So they didn't want some needless turnover. So because Michigan was in the front court, there was the timeout and there was the matchstick. And Michigan media, Michigan fans, they didn't want to hear about that. They wanted to hear about, the other assistant reached over, after some chirp, whatever. Revisit that. Okay. Malachi, let's see if he still wants to argue about it. We were trashing the basketball court. Let's get back to football. Okay, I agree with that. Let's get back to football. There's going to be plenty of times to go over and get to it. Now, having said that, we'll get to some of this. Will Smith smacked Chris Rock on the mouth once. Yeah. Let's just say, here's a hypothetical from Malachi. Let's say you're a ball player and you just lost by 30, and a player comes up in your face and say something like, go home, trash, ass, MNF, or something way more respectful. You're going to say something back. Well, I mean, in this hypothetical, yeah, what if I lost by 30 and somebody was going to say that, I would say, I would need to put my head down and get to the locker room. If he's just saying that, now, like you say, there's all kinds of different situations. If you're coming up and getting into my face and saying that, you might need to back off a little bit. And, that would come down to, I would not want my players, like if they win a game, running their mouth like that. But remember that this is not about, any chirping after the game. And it's always like, well, where did it start? Like, I don't know what happened all throughout the game. I just know what happened in the last 12 seconds. The game was over. Arizona State said, hey, we're not going to try to score anymore. We're not going to try to tack an extra bucket on. We're into the front court. We're letting the clock run out. And Michigan did something you're not supposed to do. That is going to irritate the opposing team. And then to irritate them even more, they hard trapped after a basket when they had said that they were going to run the game out. So you know what? That might be a reason. Like if you went up and I was the coach and he said exactly what you were saying, Malachi, and then the Michigan guys took exception to it, he'd say, you know what? Our guys were pissed off because these clowns are over here. I call them clowns because these guys are over here when the game's over, acting a fool, trying to steal the ball and then a hard double. So, that's the way I see it. So we can just see it different ways. We were getting all the calls in this game, too. The refs were trying to help us. We still got killed. It was a terrible game. Richard, we were wondering, we hadn't seen him all show long. It's a Friday before the Michigan game, taking on Illinois, the home finale. He's been around and one of our top viewers and everything else. And I thought, maybe he's just tired of the show. Maybe he's tired of all the winning. Richard is, he's moved on. I know. Let's go. There it is. He's back. Beat the Illini. Mark says, bottle up your energy and enthusiasm. I'm in for a case. How much for delivery? Let's go. Make sure you tell me so I don't have my dog outside because he's got some dog in him. Yes, let's focus on tomorrow. Here's somebody who wants me to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of a silent count in loud environments for Michigan versus Michigan State. Well, if you don't have the ability to have a silent count in Columbus, you're going to be in trouble. That place is known as the Snake Pit for a reason. And I did stand out on the, walk out of the field after the 98 game. And I just looked around at that place, and they're on top of you. 90,000 screaming drunk truck drivers. 90,000 belligerent, ne'er-do-well Philistines that are out for blood. Oh, you don't have a silent count. You are done. So the advantage of having a silent count when all of you hear of these heathen Philistines. Wait, David took the rock out and hit the Philistine. That's what they are. You won't be able to hear yourself think. So yeah, you have to have that. And the disadvantage is just what you think. Like you're leaning in, you're a wide receiver, you can't fire off the ball as you might want to, like you're down on the goal line, wherever you're at. That'll be I would guess that would be one of the big things that they would work on all week long is silent counts. Maybe Harbaugh will bring some speakers in there and he'll just turn it up to 1 million and have all this white noise. Maybe he'll send a bus or two down south to a couple truck stops and fill everybody up and just get, and buy a bunch of cases of Pabst and hand out some lottery tickets and then say, come on up and just scream at our Michigan players to give us a really good feel. Yeah. The advantage of having a silent count is that you can run your plays. The disadvantage is you're done if you don't have it. You better have some hand signals. You better have some silent counts. You better be prepared for the officials to make some calls that you're not going to like. I would say as a fan, you should sign up. I'm signing up for bad calls even before they kick off. It happens on the road. It's happened in this particular rivalry. So Harbaugh, he's going to be over there screaming and yelling, but I would tell my players, look, they're going to blow 4 or 5 calls, so we have to even be better than that. I don't know if he needs to say it. I don't know if he says that. Look, we're going to get the short end of 4 or 5 calls, so we've got to, I don't know. Maybe he won't say that. Probably not. Be an interesting question for him. Hey, Jim, do you tell your guys that you're going to get the short end of the stick? Hey, Jim, will you check the driver's license and do a background check on these referees? So you don't have a situation like you did in 2016. Remember this. I'm getting ready to watch last year's game, and I saw a member of the Michigan, I put him at media. He's rolling out a story like, oh, the same guy from 2016. They got those gold pants, and Michigan fans are freaking out like, we're already screwed. We're not going to get a call in the world. They are totally against us. This is total BS. Where's Kevin Warren? This is cheating. And then Michigan won. You didn't hear a single thing about any official in the world. So guess what? You come out of the short end, you're going to have a lot of talk about officials. Come out of the short end, you're going to have a lot of talk about bad coaching. You come out of the short end, you're going to have a lot of talk about the world ending as far as Michigan football goes. And so, my suggestion, win the game. The answer to the question, if Chase Brown is back, I am going to say probably. Luca wants Michigan fans to be loud tomorrow. Yeah. Yeah, you take your gloves and everything else, but you take them off and then you're able to clap. Michigan will do a good job. Should Michigan do live raps of a silent count versus Illinois? Ooh, there's a nice idea. Nice job, Captain. I'm going to say, why not? Especially if, well, why not? Because you want to use your advantage while you can. But maybe they have that they've been working on, so maybe they will. I don't know. That's an interesting one. How much would you have to be up to say, okay, let's practice a little bit for some things that we want to do, specifically a silent count in the snake pit next week? I like the direction that you're going and how you're thinking about it. So that's it. Let's go. What else do we have? Well, so we've got this game tomorrow. I've got my prediction. If you missed the prediction, I've seen a lot of other people put their predictions up. I see it going down. Michigan 25, Illinois 10. Michigan wins by 15, so they're not going to be able to cover the 18. I put that out there. Don't bet on Michigan games. But if we bet on Michigan last week, I thought Michigan was just going to miss. Then they kicked the field goal late. When you're kicking field goals at the end, or you're scoring right at the end when the game's already over, it's one of these things. You might as well just flip a coin for your money. Basically, what it is. I see, in terms of the line tomorrow, it is a coin flip. So you like flipping a coin for money? Go ahead, put some money down on Michigan or not. But that's where I'm at. And then, some point in that game, you like to get into the second half where you feel like Michigan has some breathing room. And you're pretty sure they're going to move to 11-0. And you'll look at the scores from around the Big Ten. And you'll see how Ohio State's doing up at Maryland. Probably they'll win. And then, even before the game's over, when you know it is over, essentially, you'll start thinking about 11-0 versus 11-0. And will this be billed as the game of the century 2.0? I don't know how catchy of a phrase that is. Game of the century 2.0. Game of the century part 2. That's what I'm going with right now. And that's what it'll be. Michigan gets this win tomorrow. I just want to say that tomorrow after the game, I will be on the Michigan football post-game live right here, right after the game. Oh, come on. I'll be talking about Michigan, how they looked against Illinois, and then I'll be looking and turning the page and getting into Michigan-Ohio State week. And then my plan, it just works out this way, that Sunday there's a basketball game. Michigan's taking on Ohio. And then all next week, we'll be live at 1 o'clock talking about Michigan and Ohio State. Michigan-Ohio State week. Anything that we can think about that's going to be interesting to talk about that game, and there's going to be a lot of things. So we're going to have to pare it down. We may talk for an entire hour about Michigan and Ohio State. Oh, wait, we already talked an hour. We may talk more than an hour next week. We hope to see all of you right where you're at right now tomorrow after the game, and then all week next week as we discuss, hopefully, Michigan, Ohio State, 2022 for all the marbles. The game of the century, part 2. Until tomorrow, after the game, stay warm. And I look forward to seeing you after the game or Monday.